allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. And I'll note that board members Stewart and McCafferty are present, and Ms. Sticken is not present at this time. So good morning. All right, so we will begin with our agenda. I move to approve the minutes from the March 5th, 2025 board meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. The ayes have it. And the chair recognizes Mr. Perlotti to give us some context to Directive 2025-02.
Good morning, everyone. Directive 2025-02, it's an amendment to a previous directive, and the reason that we have this, it does impact Cuyahoga County, a couple other counties. As we all know, we have multiple charters, and some of those charters call for us to have September primaries in odd years. And so back in 2021, when these mailings went out across the state and cancellations happened, we had to pause in Cuyahoga because of our September election cycle. So they have given us a different date to go ahead and conduct these cancellations. Now, we do have a meeting scheduled with the Secretary of State's office. I do believe it's this week, Wednesday, where we're going to be talking to them about this upcoming September's election. And while this date is here in this document, it may or may not stand based on that conversation to see what would happen, because this has us, I think, canceling registrations on September 23rd. And I do not think we will have certified yet the September election, and therefore applied voter history, which we would typically, you would want that all put in place to make sure that we're not canceling someone that we shouldn't. But that's kind of the backstory on what we have before us today.
Okay, thank you, Director. Any questions for the Director? All right, I move to acknowledge Secretary of State Directive 2025-02.
Second.
Second by Ms. Stewart. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. And Chair recognizes Director Perlotti again to give us some information on the State Form 427.
So you may remember prior to August of 2023, we utilized ES&S ballot scanners at our polling locations. And then we had, as we are now currently under contract with Clear Ballot. Most of the election day scanners that we utilized with ES&S were definitely past their prime. And so we destroyed all those units. The high-speed scanners, which are used for vote by mail, those were not purchased at the same time as the election day scanners. Election day scanners, we got those in 2009. The high-speed scanners we got in 2014, so they're a little bit newer. So they were still functional, but with some of the different changes and rules that the Secretary of State put in his election official manual regarding voting equipment, obviously because we changed vendors, we couldn't trade it in and get a trade-in credit, and so it allows you to either you have to keep that equipment within the state of Ohio. So you can't sell it across state lines. We couldn't even sell it back to the vendor, ES&S. So we are able to donate the equipment. Now, previously, 3 of these DSA 50 scanners, we donated, I believe it was 2 to Franklin and 1 to Lorraine. And then we kind of paused because we've had many, many elections to conduct. And now that we have a second to breathe, we have some of these are just taking up space, collecting dust. And so through the Ohio Association of Election Officials and Aaron Ackerman had him push out an email to the counties if anyone was interested. We had these units, and as we did before, we would donate them. However, the receiving counties would have to pay for and work to transport them. So that will be the cost to them. And so in order of coming in, was Lucas, Medina, and Montgomery counties. And so they will go ahead and get those units. We do have to complete an official form, which is this form 427. We sign it, the other county signs it, Secretary of State signs off on all that, so we'll do that. And then things like we'll take them off of our insurance policy and all those things, so that should deplete our units, except for one that we wanted to keep, that maybe we would put on display at the new place or whatever it is, so people can see, you know, how things evolve over time. So that's what this is.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Director Berlotti? All right, I move the authorization to execute Secretary of State Form 427 as we will transfer the voting equipment to Lucas, Medina, and Montgomery counties. Second by Mr. McCafferty. All in favor, aye. Aye, the ayes have it. It is so ordered. Thank you. On the candidate and petition services, we acknowledge the following withdrawal from office: Mary K. Brown, Berea, Council Ward 2, nonpartisan, and Mary K. Brown again, Berea, Ward 2, nonpartisan. She filed multiple times, so these are now taken off the record, and then her correct filing will be picked up in the subsequent action. Correct?
That's correct. She filed 3 times. These are the first 2.
Thank you. So we move to acknowledge her 2 withdrawals from office. So moved. Second by Ms. Stewart. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. And then on to certification. We have the list before us in item 5, the certification of the Berea candidates for the May 6, 2025 primary/special election. The list is inclusive, so I move that list be certified. Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any unreadiness? All in favor, aye? Aye, the ayes have it. And then on to 6. We have a list before us of certification of candidates to the primary election, and then we have a certification of candidates nominated without primary election, and these folks will go to the November 4th, 2025 general election as the primaries are eliminated per the Ohio Revised Code. So I move the certification of the Berea candidates nominated without primary election to the November 4th, 2025 general election. Second by Ms. Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. It is so ordered. On to election support. I move to authorize the process of the payment in the amount not to exceed $41,160 for 87 private voting locations.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. In fiscal services, Mr. Berlotti, would you speak to this resolution, please?
So this resolution is for payment of licensing and maintenance in years 6 and 7 of our Agilis mail processing units that we contract with Rundeck. So we have 2 of these machines. We had our initial unit that was paid for back in 2020 and had a extended maintenance plan. And then an additional unit was purchased in 2024, which that also had maintenance. And so what this does is all the units are paid for, and now for the first time, we will just be on maintenance and licensing. And this payment for authorization for this year and next covers both units.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Director Berlotti? All right, I move the approval of resolution R 2025-03-10-004C.
Second.
Second by Ms. Skeeter. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Now to the poll worker department. I move the authorization to pay 274 voting location managers, 294 voting location deputies, 2,355 precinct election officials, 75 election substitute officials for the May 6, 2025 primary special election.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. It is so ordered. And on to registration. The chair recognizes Mr. Hassani Wheat. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Sonia Wheat, Registration Manager.
Oh, excuse me, this guy, Director, Mr. Wheat, would you please, be sworn in by the court? Oh, thank you.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
So, you should have before you, a Form 257, challenge of the right to vote and correction of registration lists that was submitted by Monique Posner and received by the Board of Elections on February 18th, 2025. Ms. Posner, a registered voter in Cuyahoga County, is challenging the voter residency of Gautam Ramdas. Ms. Posner noted in her challenge that Mr. Ramdas does not reside at 3393 Norwood Road in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Per the Cuyahoga County Property Summary Report, Jeffrey and Monique Posner have been the property owners at 3393 Norwood Road since September 28th, 2010. The voter registration database shows that on October 23rd, 2024, Gautam Ramdas came to the Board of Elections during the early in-person voting period for the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election. At that time, he changed his address from 23900 Mercantile Road in Beechwood, Ohio to 3393 Norwood Road in Shaker Heights. After certification of the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election and application of voter history, Mr. Ramdas's address change was applied to the voter registration database.
Thank you, Mr. Wheat. Any questions for Mr. Wheat from the board? The chair recognizes Monique Posner. Is Monique Posner present or an attorney representing her? Oh, she's online. Oh, Ms. Posner? You're recognized if you could unmute, please.
Robin?
Okay. Ms. Posner, you're recognized by the board. Are you able to hear us and unmute?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Would you please be sworn in by our court reporter?
See the little picture. Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Posner. Could you state for the record, please, your current address?
3393 Norwood Road, Shaker Heights, Ohio 44122.
Okay, and to your knowledge, does Mr. Ramdas live at that address?
No, he does not.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Oh, do I have any questions for the board?
Do you have questions for the board?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any other questions for Ms. Posner?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Weed, any other information?
No.
Okay, thank you. Having heard this, I move to uphold the challenge of the right to vote filed by Monique Posner against, oh no, I'm sorry. Is Mr. Ramdas available? Mr. Ramdas. Mr. Ramdas, the chair recognizes Mr. Ramdas. Is there an attorney representing Mr. Ramdas available? Okay, we'll note for the record, Mr. Ramdas is not present, nor is he represented.
It was the meeting at 10 o'clock. He may not be.
No, it's 9:30.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was at 10 o'clock. My fault. My
No,
mistake. I'm sorry.
And due and proper notice was given to all parties, so thank you. All right, having heard that, then I do move to uphold the challenge of the right to vote by Monique Posner against Gautam Ramdas, and that his voter registration be canceled. Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any unreadiness? All in favor, aye? Aye, the ayes have it. Board, is there any, what am I trying to say? Is there any, do we want to have this referred for Secretary of State for the follow-up? Now, that could be a separate motion, but given this, did he vote from this address? I can't
I
remember.
believe he did, and I believe he voted by provisional
from this address?
Right.
Okay, since he did vote provisionally for that, then I would, do a follow-up motion that we refer, Mr. Ramdas to the Secretary of State for further investigation, to the integrity for further investigation. Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any
May I
other-
make a comment?
Hold on 1 second, please. Yes, please. Yes.
The first notification that I had that Mr. Ramdas was registered at this address was not prior to any recent election, but about a month or so ago, when I contacted the board or the Board of Elections and let them know that there was an error here. Because I received a card saying he was registered at this address and his voting location was the same voting location that we use. But before that, I had never received a card or anything that said he was registered at this address.
Mr. Bellotti?
Right, so, and because I believe the reason being is the fact pattern would be that this individual voted provisionally for the November election.
Right.
And that provisional envelope served as a change of address. And then what we don't do is send out those confirmation cards till after we get through and we certify the election, apply voter history. And so so the timeline that she expresses, Ms. Posner, that's why she would have gotten that card when she did and nothing
Correct.
beforehand.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank
All
you.
right, we do have a motion on the floor before us. Ms. Stewart.
One further question
Yes.
on our notes. It says that Mr. Ramdas has been registered at the Norwood address since November 2024. But that he voted in the November 5 presidential election.
So the reason being now is with the Data Act, there's different dates that we utilize, and so sometimes
It's officially applied to voter
Yeah.
history at a later date, but on that date, he was registered in the state of Ohio at a different address. So therefore, his provisional was able to be processed.
Yeah.
His provisional was under the Mercantile address or the Norwood address?
Because he was registered at the Mercantile, he qualified for the 30 days before the election to be able to participate in the election. But because he updated his address through the provisional process, his address of record for the vote in November would have been the Norwood.
And that's the ballot he voted, the Norwood ballot.
And it was updated when voter history was applied.
Right.
Yes, okay, that's all.
So he actually voted at Fernway School on election day?
No, he voted early in person at the board's office. He voted
In October.
in October, and he was issued the ballot for the Norwood address, meaning the Shaker Heights precinct versus previously the Beechwood. And so that is the ballot he cast. He cast a Shaker Heights ballot for that election. It was prior to election day during early in person voting, but we're not able to apply. So to your point, we'll get voter history for voting at in Shaker Heights for the November election, which is prior to the date of the registration. But to Deputy Director Gallagher's point, he was an existing voter versus not being registered. So that's, yeah. The Data Act puts some things in place that sometimes they make things not as maybe clear as they were previously.
He voted provisionally, was his ballot counted, tabulated?
Yes. Because he was registered and that is a valid address.
That's why the motion on the floor is now to refer him to the Secretary of State's voter integrity petition. So that motion is still before us. Yes, Mr. Second, okay. All in favor, aye. Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Posner.
Thank you.
Mr. Wheat, floor is yours.
You should have before you a Form 257 challenge of the right to vote and correction of registration lists. That was submitted by Joanne Anderson and received by the Board of Elections on March 3rd, 2025. Ms. Anderson, a voter in Cuyahoga County, is challenging the voter residency of Johnny Bridges. Ms. Anderson noted in her challenge that Mr. Bridges does not reside at 920 East 232nd Street in Euclid, Ohio. Per the Cuyahoga County Property Summary Report, Ms. Anderson has been the property owner at 920 East 232nd Street since April 8th, 1997. The voter registration database shows that Johnny Bridges has been registered at the 920 East 232nd Street address since July 17th, 2015. Mr. Bridges most recently voted from the 920 East 232nd Street address during the November 8th, 2022 general election, but has not voted nor has had any voter activity since that time.
Thank you, Mr. Wheat. Board, any questions for Mr. Wheat? Okay, thank you. The chair recognizes Joanne Anderson. Is Ms. Anderson present or online or an attorney representing her? You will know for the record that she is not here nor is she represented. The chair recognizes Mr. Johnny Bridges. Is Mr. Bridges present or an attorney representing him? We know for the record that he's not here nor is he represented. Board, what is your pleasure?
My concern is that Mr. Bridges hasn't attempted to vote from this address in recent years. He hasn't voted since 2022. Ms. Anderson's challenge is preemptive, obviously, but I'm not sure that unless or until Mr. Bridges, I mean, he could arguably do a change of address today and vote from wherever his address is. So I just question whether any action should be taken.
Do you infer from the document that we have here that perhaps he did live at that address?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Appears he did
Okay.
at one time.
And for some reason or another, he's no longer resident there.
Right, because I think Ms. Anderson said he no longer lives
Yeah,
there.
so that's why I inferred that he at one time was at that address.
Right.
And where he is now, we do not know, per what she represents in this document. So your readiness is that he did not vote and has not attempted to vote.
Right, and then Ms. Anderson's actions, legitimately appears, but are preemptive.
Preemptive.
And I don't know that we need to address.
That doesn't necessarily meet the threshold.
Correct.
of Canceling the registration.
Correct.
Mr. Musser, is there anything that you would want to advise him?
This is a challenge to this voter's right to vote at this address, under 3503.24. And the burden is on the challenger to show by clear and convincing evidence that he does not qualify to vote from that address. We have her statement under penalty of perjury that he does not, or no longer lives there. We have the review from Hassani to determine whether or not, our records reflect any change. It's really up to the board whether or not that meets that threshold for clear and convincing evidence that he does not live at that address.
And where was notice provided to him at this address?
That's my understanding, right? Due to the address that he's registered to vote at. The presumption being that he would be there to get it if he's actually living there.
And we have no other registered addresses for him,
Not,
or other registration.
not since, and he hasn't voted since 2022.
Yeah, it had there been, because he has been registered there for some time and voted, we didn't have the other one. If it was, like, for example, the previous one, we mailed that notice to Mr. Ramdas at the Norwood, but we also send it to the address that he was changing from. This different fact pattern because,
Right.
we don't have that additional address.
Right. And usually the process is if there's no voter activity, we would send a postcard out with them. I mean, maybe going through that process, he would be cleaned off the record eventually as time progresses without any voter activity from that address. So this just accelerates that process.
Do we know when he first registered at this address? Do we have that?
2015.
Is that on it? Oh, since 15?
Yeah.
Sorry, long time.
And there's, and voted last election, 2022. Mr. Nelson, you're correct. I mean, I think Ms. Anderson's evidence is clear and convincing. And arguably, if Mr. Bridges moved back into the address before voting, he could register or do a provisional.
Correct. I think registration can speak to it better, but within 30 days, he can, before the election, he'd be able to register at any address that he lives at.
Correct. We can submit a registration card for that, and if he wasn't registered in time, he would be issued a provisional ballot. However, he would be not registered, so it would register him for the subsequent election, but it would ballot wouldn't count for the election at hand.
And arguably, if he moved back into the Euclid address, Ms. Anderson could tell him he needed to go get re-registered.
This, a lot of people move
Mhm.
and they don't change their registration for whatever reason, so
Mhm.
they don't get penalized.
If I may, if they have a driver's license, they should be telling the state, board or Bureau of Motor Vehicles of their address change by law. You're gonna be, cited or, ticketed for not updating your registration, which would trigger
Yeah.
the voter, the voter, process for updating their voter registration if they follow the law, update it. And maybe he doesn't have a driver's license.
How long do you have?
To notify, I think 30 days to notify.
30 days when you move?
Yeah, otherwise it's a crime.
I'm sure a lot of people aren't doing that.
Not everybody does
A lot
that.
of people come to the polls with the driver's licenses and we're.
Mr. Russell, does that hold true for state ID holders?
I'm not sure,
You're not sure.
state ID.
Because I was just.
I believe it's more of the financial responsibility.
Okay, all with the insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, this is a new one. I'll try a motion, see where it goes. I move to uphold the challenge, the right to vote filed by Joanne Anderson against Johnny Bridges and that his registration be canceled.
My second.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm okay.
second, the property moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Weed. Move on to the human resources agenda. I move to accept the following resignations of McKaylee Dobek, HR Assistant, effective March 7th, 2025. Ray Combs, Candidate and Petition Services Campaign Finance Auditor, effective March 7th, 2025. And Ruth Ann Hoshiko, Absentee Voter Department Election Official 2, effective March 14th, 2025.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. And on the new business, Director Palani.
Just wanna provide just a brief update where we are, for the upcoming May 6th election. All the, candidate filing deadlines are now passed. And for this election, we have, two communities, Village of Oakwood and City of Berea, in which candidates will appear on the ballot. Both of those contests are nonpartisan. So we will not have any partisan primary elections for this May election, meaning that there will only be one ballot style generated per precinct throughout the county. So that is from a ballot proofing process. a little bit, definitely makes it easier, easier for poll worker training. And actually takes away some of the confusion that some of the voters have sometimes, with partisan primaries. So, yeah, Oakwood Village and Berea, only places where some candidates will appear, and it's not in all wards in those communities. We have a countywide election because, or statewide election because of issue 2, which has to do with some bonds, and so many of our communities will only have that one question on the ballot. We should have a single sheet ballot across all of Cobb County. So a little break there with a front page.
Easier on the poll
ballot.
ballot.
Yeah, exactly. So just continuing on with, I guess, ballot creation. We have imported now the questions, issues, and candidates for the May ballot. Brian Cleary and his team laying it out, and have started their proofing rounds. We start with this was, we had mentioned at last meeting, we were a couple days behind. I think with the size of the ballot and the complexity of what it is, we definitely will get back on track. And March 21st is when we have to have our UOCAVA military overseas ballots, which is a week from this Friday. We definitely will meet that deadline. He should have a completed ballot, fully proofed, ready to go by the middle of next week. So things are good for that. We will make up our time and we will hit all of our production marks for the ballot department. Poll workers department, they started training this past weekend. It started off well, well attended, very minimal call-offs. So far, as far as signing up, we have 150 BLM who have signed up, 231 poll workers signed up for training, and we have another 328 poll workers who have signed up for online training. So we will be offering online training for this election. We are requiring all of our poll workers to train for the May election. You have to certify like every 2 years, so we could have gone with November's, but we want to get everybody in and really make sure that they understand how to insert paper rolls into the machines, and we can fine tune our training a little bit to hit on some things that we want. So, for example, in the BLD training, we're focusing more this time on management, problem resolution, a little bit different style, and not just straight up classroom type. It's a little bit more interactive, and the first goal of it this past weekend was positive. They liked it, and I think it's one of these times where we can hone in on some things that maybe we don't get to spend as much time because we're trying to get through so much. So I think we'll see a positive return on that. The online training, we are finalizing the actual the content, or the content is there, I guess it's the format, getting that done. And so that will be finished this week, and then we'll notify those individuals who have signed up for the online training. That should become available the next week for those to participate in that. So it's so training is off to a good start. We soon will have another big blast email going out to more poll workers because we haven't reached out to all the population of returners. So we're going to expand that now and get more people reaching out to us to sign up for the training, which will be good. Ballot proofing, polling, poll places. We have 274 polling locations that we'll utilize for the May election. Previously it was 289, so we're at 274. All of our private locations have returned their contracts, so we are good there. And we have 2 public entities that we are in communication with that should be fine. Warrensville Heights for their senior center, and Berea. And I think Berea, we were just waiting, or they wanted to wait until after the filing deadline. So we'll be in a good place there. Election support is currently packing their supply bags to generic state, and that's moving along as planned. So really, as far as preparations, everyone is where they need to be. Really in-person voting. Becky has figured out how many people she wants to work there really in person. We're gonna do something a little bit different there as part of absentee now all coming under one umbrella. The confined voter process, which is nursing home voting, jail voting. We're gonna run that out of the first floor voting room also. We don't anticipate high volumes of individuals coming in, so Steve Dell will oversee early in person, get re-exposed to the confined voter operation, and we'll have another permanent employee come over. So again, it's part of cross-training for that unit, so that when we go over to the new building, we'll be that much further down the road with processes. Also, we worked together as a management team. We're gonna change up our election night processes a little bit on election night. All the same content that comes back will still come back. Voted, unvoted ballots, electronic poll books, and all of the other things that come. But what we're gonna do is we will process, of course, all of our memory sticks. We will get all our voted ballots that come in, and we will transfer that content from the canvas bags into the cardboard like we do and get it shelled. But the primary change will be the unvoted ballots that will come back. Instead of going through and changing that, getting those ballots out of the canvas bags into the cardboard, we're gonna keep them in the canvas bags, but we're gonna have them organized on carts. So it'll be by poll location, so we will know where everything is. Then, by Friday of that week, we will have people come in during the day, and they will get all that material out of the canvas into cardboard onto the shelves. Presidential election, everybody comes out of the woodwork and wants to help. All other times, not so much. So that, it beats up on us. And for example, this May, where we count a lot on college students to help us with that, it's finals week for Cleveland State and Baldwin Wallace and all those other universities. So it's very hard for them to come. So what we're doing is trying this out for this election. We will refine it because we'll probably come into a similar challenge in September because those college students will just have been back to school maybe for a week or two. So really not enough time to recruit there. And so we're coming up with a plan that we can use all the time. And then, of course, we would probably maybe make some changes in the presidential year because of it being a presidential year, but we had good conversation with this. And again, everything will be coming back here, which gives Deputy Director Gallagher and I comfort. At least we know it's in the building, so if we had to, we could go get those bags, but we will be, try to be a little realistic with the help that we're able to get the job done. We won't need as many people, so we should be able to do it. And then HR has the fun task of figuring out who are those individuals then who will come in Wednesday through Friday, get everything squared away, because we, as you know, will be in our processes of provisional, processing, poll worker, payroll. But again, we can do it in a controlled environment, won't need as many resources over those days, and I think it'll be a success. So that'll be a little something different that you'll see come election night. Still controlled chaos, just scaled down a little bit. So those really were, other than if there's questions, those were just a couple of the highlights that I wanted to give at this point.
I just have a couple. So we've gone to 274 polling locations. How many precincts do we have with the Cleveland and all that? And if you don't know, it's fine. I was just wondering if we went down. Because it used to be what, 975?
We were at 967,
960, okay.
and we are at 897.
So around 897.
Does that sound right? 897.
Okay,
So
thank
we're
you.
at 897 precincts.
Thank you. And then also, especially for the benefit of our new board member, could the board get the updated training material? for
Yes.
the poll workers,
Mhm.
please. Thank you. You can send that. That'd be great. Any other questions for Director, Deputy Director?
No.
All right. Anything from the board? All right, the chair has not received any requests from for public comment. And I've not received a request for executive session, but Mr. McCaffrey has his hand up.
I just want to comment, we had the opportunity to tour the new facility, last Wednesday. And it's a really nice place for sure. It's the first time I was in there.
They're very nice. We're very excited
Yeah.
for it, yeah.
It definitely has been a journey and continues to be a journey.
But we will get there.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Okay, no other business being before us, I move to adjourn the meeting. Second by everybody. All in favor, aye. Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.